Hello, this is Paula Jasmine Gonzalez, also known as PJ the Whip Gonzalez, and today is going to be a video blog about trans athletes. First of all, let me start congratulating Nyla Rose, who recently she won the AEW Women's Championship, and I'm happy for her because honestly, she is the first transgender woman to be signed by a major professional wrestling organization. She's not the only transgender woman out there. There are other transgender women in wrestling. You have Mariah Moreno, you have Candy Lee, and less known, you have the Broken Doll Roxy, and of course, me. And I work for the independents in New York and Massachusetts, and I'm the women's champion in one of the companies. Yay, me! And I have had the chance to wrestle um, in both genders before as a in before I transition and after I transition. I also know a transgender man. He's a friend of mine. He lives in Massachusetts, and I have had the chance to work with him in the ring too. So we transgender athletes, we do exist. We exist in professional wrestling, and we're not going anywhere, regardless of what people, what hatred and ignorance people will spit at us. Because we know. I mean, I know that after Nyla won, the whole internet exploded with transphobic comments from people, and including, which this really surprised me, but at the same time, oh well, um, it is what it is. But yeah, Val Venis, or as he was known in WWE, Sean Morley, he wrote a bunch of comments full of ignorance in his Facebook page and Twitter against Nyla Rose. I don't know if he wants to wrestle a trans woman or not, but if he does, if you can get Nyla, hey, I'm here. I also have a championship, which I think you think is unfair for a trans woman to have a women's championship. So if you ever want to get in the ring, hey, I'm here. I'm not afraid of you. It's wrestling. Anyway, but yeah, um, so yeah, um, so and the one thing that he mentioned in one of his comments was like he was comparing wrestling against other sports. Let's focus the discussion about trans athlete in other sports. Professional wrestling cannot be compared to other sports. There are two different things. Professional wrestling is not technically a sport; it's more entertainment. Um, So we shouldn't compare professional wrestling, what happened in the world of professional wrestling against what happened in other worlds in other sports. Um, it's not the same, and so yeah, and let's also not forget trans people and cis people. I mean, people that are not transgender. We all come in different sizes and shapes. So yeah. Professional wrestling, when you compare it to its closest sport, which is amateur wrestling, professional wrestling has ditched the weight classes. Amateur wrestling has weight classes because they want to try to keep things fair, and that is independent whether they have men or women competing against each other. Because in some cases, like I think New York State doesn't have, some places in New York State don't have girls team when it comes to amateur wrestling, so the girls have to wrestle the boys, and for that they have weight classes. So yeah, and so I have weight classes, and to try to keep the sport fair. In professional wrestling, we don't do that. I mean, depending on the organization, because WWE has the cruiserweight title, but some other promotions we don't have cruiserweight titles. And when it comes to women, we don't even care. Like we don't even have weight classes in women's division. So yeah, we don't have that. Now, the one thing that I hate that people do is like they try to imply that because as a trans woman you were born a particular gender before and now you're a different gender. They try to imply that because we were born in that particular gender we have an advantage in a sport, and I do think that saying that ignore two other things that we should consider. One is the fact that sports organization, they don't allow transgender women to compete unless they have been on hormones for at least 1 year. That is to allow the body chemistry to be reversed, pretty much. And a lot of people, they ignore that fact and they only focus on the fact that we were born in a different gender. And the second thing that they always forget is the fact that every sport has a skill. Professional wrestling has skills that you have to learn. Soccer has skills you have to learn to do in order if you want to be successful in that sport. So in order to improve those skills, you have to practice. So if you don't practice, you're not going to get better at what you do. So you're not going to develop the skills that you need to be able to compete at a competitive level. And so all the all the comments from people out there, they forget those three things. So they only tell you a small portion of their view, but they don't tell. They want to make you forget the other three things that I have just mentioned. And that every athlete know that if they don't train, they're not going to do good. And that there are skills that you have to practice so you can become better at them, so you can become a better athlete. Same applies with professional wrestling. So anyway, so all the comments that people are saying out there, which me that say that a transgender woman may have an advantage or a trans athlete will have an advantage, in my opinion, is so full. It doesn't tell the whole story, and I think people should do more to educate themselves before they comment on posts about trans athletes out there. Anyway, peace out and goodbye.